I don't think I'll ever forget the way my son's face lit up that day. His tiny hands gripping a folded piece of paper like it was treasure, his little sneakers squeaked as he ran up to my father, smiling so wide, cheeks flushed from excitement, and said, "I made this for you, Grandpa." My heart swelled and shattered in the same second. I knew how this would go. I knew my father, cold, calculated, never impressed, never proud, but still, I hoped. My dad, Walter, a man of sharp suits, sharper words, and a heart buried somewhere beneath years of bitterness, looked down at Noah, took the drawing like it was a parking ticket, opened it slowly, and let out this laugh. Not a joyful one, a mocking kind of laugh, dry and dismissive, and then, with a voice colder than the winter air outside, he said, "This is why she should have never had kids." He didn't look at me when he said it. He didn't have to. My sister Jenna? She snorted, rolled her eyes like this was just another Thursday. "Just throw it away, Dad," she said casually, like my son's feelings were just clutter. I felt something in my chest tighten, like a balloon swelling with pressure just on the edge of bursting. I looked at Noah, still standing there, eyes blinking, lips pressed together. He didn't understand. He just wanted to give something to his grandpa. He didn't know what that kind of rejection felt like. Not yet. And then, just as I was about to scoop him into my arms and leave, just as I was ready to put an end to this same cruel cycle, my dad did something unexpected. He flipped the drawing over, and what he saw in the back made his hand freeze. His face went completely still, like time stopped, and in that one breathless moment, the entire room changed. You know how some people grow up in a house but never really feel at home? That was me, always walking on eggshells even as a little girl. My dad, Walter, wasn't the kind of father who read bedtime stories or asked how your day went. He was ex-military, all discipline and sharp commands. If you weren't the best, the smartest, the fastest, the most obedient, you were nothing. At least that's how he made me feel. I was the youngest of two. My sister Jenna? She was everything he wanted in a daughter. Straight A's, captain of the debate team. Tough, confident, always ready with a sarcastic comeback. He ate it up. She knew how to speak his language, blunt, proud, unshakable. And me? I was the soft one, the sensitive one. I liked drawing, reading, daydreaming. I cried easily. I didn't like conflict. I tried to be quiet, small, just so I wouldn't mess anything up. My mom, Sarah, was the buffer. She was gentle. She had this calming energy, like no matter how tense things got, she could smooth the edges. She used to whisper to me, "You don't have to be like them, Elise. There's power in softness." I held on to that, but she passed away when I was 20. A stroke, out of nowhere. One minute we were talking about my college dorm, and the next, she was gone. And after that, it was like the last bit of warmth in our family disappeared. My dad changed. Not that he was ever affectionate, but after she died, it was like he locked the door to whatever was left of his heart. And Jenna, she just became more like him. Blunt, unbothered, cold. I didn't fit in with them anymore. Not that I ever really did. I moved out, graduated, fell in love with someone who treated me like I mattered. His name was Marcus. He wasn't perfect, but for a while he made me feel seen. We had Noah 2 years after we got married. He was my miracle, this sweet, thoughtful little soul who somehow inherited all the softness I was once ashamed of. When Marcus left, walked out without even packing his things, I thought I'd fall apart. But I didn't. I had Noah. And for the first time, I understood what my mom meant when she said there's strength in being gentle. I raised him on my own. Every bedtime story, every scraped knee, every homemade birthday cake, just me and him. And I was proud of that, but I never brought him around my dad. Not until last week. It was Jenna's idea. She invited us to a family dinner at her house. She said Dad had been asking about Noah, said maybe it was time to patch things up. I was hesitant. I knew better than to expect warmth. But I thought, maybe if he saw Noah, he'd soften. Maybe seeing a child, an innocent, open-hearted little boy, would do what I never could. Noah was excited. He spent an hour drawing something special just for Grandpa Walter. I didn't look at it. I wanted it to be his moment. As we drove over, I kept one hand on the wheel and the other in his tiny hand. He was humming, smiling. I kept praying. Not out loud, not to anyone in particular, just hoping. Maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. Jenna's house was everything you'd expect from someone still chasing our father's approval. Spotless, minimal, cold. The kind of place where kids weren't really allowed to be kids. Her twin boys sat in the living room, hypnotized by their tablets, volume blaring. Not a word of hello, not even a glance. I walked in with Noah beside me, holding his little drawing close to his chest. He looked up at me like, "Is this okay?" I smiled and nodded, but something in me tightened the second I saw my dad sitting in the corner armchair, stiff as stone, drink in hand. Walter didn't even stand up. He just gave me this shallow nod and said, "You look tired." That was his version of small talk. I kept my voice steady. "Hi, Dad." Jenna walked in from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a spotless dish towel, like this was just another curated dinner for her perfect life. "Dinner's almost ready," she said. "Dad's been talking about meeting Noah." That was a lie. I could hear it in her tone. Dad probably didn't even ask about Noah. More likely, she just wanted to parade us in front of him, like a "look what I managed to organize" moment. But Noah? He didn't notice. He looked up at me with this pure excitement in his eyes and whispered, "Can I give it to him now?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. He walked up, slow but proud, and said in that soft, sweet voice of his, "Hi, Grandpa, I made this for you." He held the drawing up with both hands. My dad took it like it was an old grocery receipt, like it had no weight. He opened it, stared for 2 seconds, and laughed. Not the warm kind, not the "oh, how cute" kind. This was the kind of laugh you use when you think something is pathetic. Then, without even looking at me, he said, "This is why she should have never had kids." Like I wasn't sitting 5 feet away. Jenna, standing behind the kitchen island, smirked. "Just throw it away, Dad." Noah blinked, his hand still extended, waiting for something. Anything. My stomach dropped. I looked at him, and in that moment, I could see it. Confusion. Like his little brain was trying to figure out what went wrong. Like he didn't understand why something that had made him so proud suddenly didn't matter. I wanted to scream, to snatch the drawing back and tell them both off, but I froze. Because this scene, it was so familiar. That feeling of being dismissed, of trying and failing and not knowing why. I lived that. My entire childhood was made up of moments like this, and now it was happening to my son. I leaned forward to take Noah's hand, ready to walk out, ready to never come back, when something strange happened. My dad, clearly annoyed by Noah still standing there silently, flipped the paper over. I don't know what he was expecting. Maybe another scribble, maybe nothing at all. But the second his eyes hit the back of that page, his entire body stilled, his grip on the paper tightened, his expression changed. It was like someone had hit pause on him. And in that split second, every sarcastic remark, every cold dismissal, it all stopped. And I realized something was different. At first, I didn't understand what had just happened. 1 second, my dad was rolling his eyes at Noah's drawing, brushing it off like he always did with anything that came from me. And the next, he was completely silent, like the paper in his hand had turned to stone. I watched him, that same man who once yelled at me for crying during a thunderstorm because feelings make you weak. His jaw clenched, his hand holding the paper didn't move, his eyes locked on whatever Noah had written on the back. Noah stood there, looking up at him, unaware of the shift happening in the room. I leaned forward, trying to see the paper. I couldn't. But whatever it was, it had cracked something in my dad that I didn't think could crack. Jenna noticed it too. She looked up from her phone, brow furrowed. "What?" she asked. "What's on the back?" No answer. "Dad?" she repeated, louder this time. Still nothing. He didn't even blink. I slowly stood up, unsure if I should say something or just grab Noah and leave. I wasn't used to silence coming from him. Usually, he filled the air with judgment, but now it was like the room itself had shifted into another version of reality, one where he wasn't in control anymore. Finally, I walked over and knelt beside Noah. I touched his shoulder. "Hey, baby, you okay?" He nodded. "I just wanted to show him I was proud of him," he whispered. "You said Grandpa was a hero." His words hit me in the chest. I had said that. Months ago, when Noah first started asking about family, I told him that even though Grandpa wasn't always kind, he had served in the military, and that takes courage. I wanted Noah to understand that people can be complicated, that good and bad can live inside the same person. I didn't know he'd been carrying that with him, that he put it into a drawing. I looked up at my dad again, still frozen, still staring. Finally, he spoke, quietly, almost too low to hear. "He wrote this?" he asked, not looking up. I nodded, even though he hadn't really asked me. He shook his head slightly, as if trying to process something too heavy. He said he wants to be like me?" My voice caught, but I managed to say, "Yes." He lowered the paper slowly, like he was afraid it might break. Then, for the first time in maybe 20 years, he looked directly at me. Not past me, not through me, at me. And something was different in his face. The arrogance was gone. That stonewall expression I grew up with, it had crumbled. What was left behind looked almost human. "You shouldn't want that," he murmured. I stood there, holding Noah's hand, heart pounding. "Why not?" He blinked, and I saw something in his eyes I didn't expect. Regret. Because I was never the man he thinks I am. And there it was. A crack. A moment of vulnerability from the one person I thought would never allow it. The silence hung in the air again, but this time, it wasn't heavy. It wasn't hostile. It was full of things unsaid, things that maybe, finally, he was ready to say. And that's when he asked, almost like a child, "Do you think he'd let me try again?" I didn't answer right away. I looked at Noah, who was now back to doodling quietly in the corner, completely unaware of the emotional earthquake he had just caused. Then I looked back at my dad. "We'll see," I said. "That depends on what you do next." My dad didn't say another word for the rest of dinner. And honestly, that was fine. I wasn't looking for a grand speech. I didn't need him to apologize in front of everyone or beg for forgiveness. I just needed him to feel it, really feel it. And judging by the way he kept glancing at Noah, the way his eyes lingered on that folded drawing he'd now tucked carefully into his coat pocket, something inside him was shifting. Jenna noticed it too. She kept watching him with this confused look, like she couldn't figure out what was happening, like the dad she knew, the one who never flinched, never folded, was suddenly glitching right in front of her. After dinner, she disappeared into the kitchen with the boys. I helped Noah put on his jacket. He was starting to yawn, his energy finally catching up to him. I kissed the top of his head and thanked him for being so polite. That's when my dad stood up. He walked over slowly, his hand still in his coat pocket. He didn't look at me. Not at first. He crouched, slowly, stiffly, until he was eye level with Noah. And for a moment, I held my breath. I didn't know what he was going to say. Part of me was ready to step between them. I still didn't fully trust him. But then he did something I hadn't seen him do since I was a child. He smiled. Not a big smile, not a perfect one, but real. And he said quietly, "Thank you for the drawing, Noah." Noah blinked up at him. "You liked it?" My dad nodded. Very much. Especially the message on the back. There was a pause. And then, like it came naturally, he added, "I was a soldier, but I didn't always get it right. I hurt people I loved, and I didn't know how to fix it." I froze. Those words. They didn't sound like my dad. But at the same time, maybe they always were in there. He just never let them out. Noah tilted his head, thoughtful. "But you help people too, right?" My dad's eyes welled just slightly. "I tried to, a long time ago, and I'd like to try again, if that's okay." Noah grinned. "Okay." And just like that, he reached out and hugged him. My dad didn't move at first, probably stunned. But then slowly he wrapped his arms around my son, and I felt something in my chest snap loose, something that had been buried there for years, a knot of anger, of shame, of loss. I didn't cry, not yet, but I felt the weight lift, even if just a little. As we turned to leave, my dad gently touched my arm, not to stop me, just a light, uncertain gesture. "Elise," he said softly, "I don't expect you to forgive me. I've said a lot of things I can't take back." I looked at him, really looked at him. The lines in his face, the weight of a life spent building walls, now cracking in the quiet. "You don't have to fix everything overnight," I told him. "But if you want to show up for Noah, then start by showing up." He nodded. And for the first time in my life, I believed him. That night, after I tucked Noah into bed, I sat down at the edge of his mattress and just watched him for a while. His breathing was steady, peaceful. One hand curled around his favorite stuffed bear, the other resting near the crayon box he insisted on sleeping next to, just in case he woke up with a new idea for a picture. I brushed a little hair off his forehead and let the quiet settle in. Everything from that evening played back in my mind like a movie. The way my dad laughed, the sting in his voice when he said I should have never had kids. And then, the silence. The way he looked at the back of that drawing like it had unlocked something he hadn't touched in decades. The way he hugged my son. The way he looked at me. Growing up, I used to think I had to be the problem. That if my dad didn't love me the way other dads loved their daughters, it was because I wasn't lovable. I was too emotional, too quiet, too sensitive. He told me once when I was 12 that I needed to toughen up or be eaten alive. I never forgot it. Not because it was true, but because I spent years believing it was. But watching my dad today, watching that single sentence from a 6-year-old boy break through decades of emotional armor, it made me realize something. Maybe it wasn't me. Maybe it was never me. Maybe he didn't know how to love what he didn't understand. And maybe he was too proud or too broken to admit it until now. That doesn't excuse everything he did. It doesn't erase the years I spent questioning my worth or the tears I cried in silence, but it's something, a start. And as a mom, I've learned that sometimes a start is enough. I don't know if my dad will change completely. I don't expect him to become someone he's not, but I saw something real in his eyes tonight. Something raw, something honest. He felt something. And for him, that's monumental. And Noah, my sweet, thoughtful Noah, he has no idea what kind of miracle he created in that moment. He just wanted to say thank you. He just wanted to show love. That's the thing about kids. They love without caution. They don't care about pride or past mistakes. They see the best in people, sometimes before those people see it in themselves. That drawing, it wasn't just paper and crayons. It was a bridge, a soft, innocent gesture that reached where years of resentment and silence couldn't. And me? I learned that healing doesn't always look like an apology. Sometimes it's a look, a moment, a hug you never thought you'd receive. So here's what I know now, and what I want you to remember if you've ever felt unseen or unloved by the people who should have known how to love you. You are not too soft. You are not too much. You are not a mistake. And sometimes the very things people criticize you for are the exact things that end up changing the world around you. And sometimes a child's heart can reach places even grown adults have long abandoned. I turned off Noah's bedside lamp, kissed his forehead, and whispered, "You did good today, buddy." He didn't stir. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something close to peace.